Good morning. This is Jovine with Behind the Markets. Happy Friday. Today is Friday, April 4th. And today I am going to talk about, of course, the tariffs, which I didn't talk about yesterday morning because I got so many emails and inquiries about Newsmax. And I wanted to give it a day or so before I commented. I really wanted to digest this. There are plenty of people out there who are going to give the knee-jerk reactions to everything. And I try to give you a little bit more thought. I want a little bit more of a thoughtful reaction to the things that I'm seeing, so it just doesn't go knee-jerk. So I've had a day and a half to process this since his announcement on Wednesday, and today's the day to talk about it. So let's talk about some of the headlines that I've seen that have been, frankly, a little bit astonishing. One is European defense giants eye Starlink alternative within months. You have a bunch of countries in Europe that are actually looking to say, Airbus and Thales are looking to create their own satellite system, which won't be too difficult. The problem has been European regulations, which they look like they're going to get rid of. So this is a good example of what happens. There's a lot actually in here that actually are very informative for us. First of all, one thing you have to understand is that we are incentivizing Europe and Asian countries to actually take actions. Because remember, every action we do has an equal and sometimes disproportionate reaction on the other side. So here's one example. Europeans are going to look for an alternative to Starlink. That brings us to another point. When you're looking at trade, not all dollars are created equal. What do I mean by that? For example, Walmart, okay? You're going to go into Walmart, and China got 34% additional tariffs on top of the 20% Trump announced since he got into office, meaning that before Trump was elected to now, when you go into Walmart, April 5th is the day he's going to put those on, things are going to be, the couch, the TV, the pen, whatever it is, they're going to be 54% more expensive than they were 4 months ago. Okay, if that's a big number, it's no joke. But not all dollars are created equal. For example, we import a lot of couches, TVs, pens, we'll call them dumb products. We export a lot of services. Starlink, Microsoft Cloud, Amazon, Facebook. We're exporting a lot of business services, Oracle, you name it. So let's just say, what is more valuable? $1 trillion of couches and pens that we bring in that have a 10% profit margin on them, meaning that China sells us $1 trillion and the world sells us $1 trillion worth of couches and pens. They make $100 billion, 10% on that, they bring back an economic value to their country. But we sell the world services. So we sell $500 billion in services. That has a 30% profit margin, which is $150 billion in profit. So what is more valuable? The $1 trillion that China sells us with a 10% profit margin, or the $500 billion that we sell Europe and China with a 30% profit margin? Our services include banking, insurance, software, etc. So what I'm saying to you is that the trade deficit's a very simple, actually, way to look at how the economic relationship between countries. Again, they sell us $1 trillion with a 10% profit margin, probably 5%, let's be realistic. Making couches isn't a hugely profitable business, but they sell us $1 trillion worth of stuff. They make, we'll call it $100 billion in profit. We sell $500 billion worth of stuff, software, high margin things. We make 150, 30% in profit margins. So the trade itself is not equal. It's really interesting to see this. Again, we live in a democracy and I respect our democracy and this is what we voted for, but here we are. The other thing is, a couple of other surprising headlines that really caught my mind is, astonishingly, China, South Korea, and Japan are going to respond to this announcement together as a unified voice. Wow. Who knew that we could get Japan and South Korea to join China? That's very interesting. Again, that's a reaction to this action. They want to be able to push back against us and coordinate their trading policy. Very normal. Europe and Canada are actually now responding, forming a bloc to push back and put pressure on us to do this. The other thing that makes it very interesting is China is more likely to invade Taiwan. Remember, when you put yourself in position as Xi Jinping, you've talked about wanting to invade Taiwan to be ready to go by 2027. The biggest thing that stops you is trade with America. Trade with America. You say, you know what? I don't want to lose $1 trillion a year customer. Is Taiwan worth it? You're sitting there judging. Is it worth it? Get Taiwan, $1 trillion in my pocket and keep people happy and employed. Get Taiwan, $1 trillion in my pocket a year, keep people happy and employed. So it's a very big calculation that he's making. You know what I mean? The hardcore stuff there you got to figure out. Now, take Taiwan, that $1 trillion in trade all of a sudden goes way down, $600 billion. Goes way down because that's going to get cut dramatically. So you're incentivizing, Taiwan becomes more valuable. You're incentivizing him to actually make a move on Taiwan. There's a lot of ramifications for these Liberation Day policies. Tariffs on the American consumer, remember, April 5th. Walmart, China makes everything. Again, the pen, China. This rock from China. This little thing from China. All this stuff is from China. That at Walmart, when you go to buy anything from China, that's up 54% in price, which people are going to get sticker shock from. Taiwan, China's more likely to go to Taiwan. We're incentivizing people to actually form different trading blocs. Shock. China, South Korea, Japan. China just picked off our 2 allies in Asia for trade, which is astonishing. And of course, the dollar weakens because if there's less trade, that means countries are selling less into America and pulling out dollars, which is why the dollar plunged yesterday. Lots of stuff to digest here, lots of ripple effects. This can go in so many different directions. It's so interesting. Like the man said, may you live in interesting times. We certainly live in interesting times. So I just wanted to give you a little food for thought this weekend so you can process and marinate some of the after effects of this. And who knows? We'll see. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.